My name is Ryan Vesely. I'm the Vice President of Customer Success and Technical Services with SOT. I've been here for about 2.5 years and really enjoy the space, both in terms of helping you understand what you can do with automation and how you can ensure that you're providing the best possible applications to your users, and obviously making sure that we're having the best practices associated to that. So a lot of times my teams are working with both implementation and even someone on the sales side as well. So there's a really good chance that we'll be able to interact at some point in the near future. I do want to spend a little bit of time around how we see the world right now. And if you think about it from a point of view of the software in general, with everything going on in the world, the entire way that people interact with their own services or with the subscriptions that they have, everything has completely changed. There's no easy way to go into a bank and have that interaction without always being aware of the pandemic and being aware of how it's going to interrupt your life. So more and more people are turning to the mobile world and thinking about how we can interact with applications where we are, as opposed to disrupting and taking risks that we may not want to take. So, thinking about it from a point of view of getting into your banking and checking your balances and doing your transactions from there. I personally use 2 different apps. I have one for tracking my various different doctor appointments and thinking about that and how I can look at various different communications coming in so that I and my family can maintain a healthy lifestyle and understanding how we can communicate with our doctors. All of that is done through through our mobile devices. And then of course we still have to eat, right? We still have to go to the store. So every once in a while we'll make a run to the grocery store, and there's even apps that are available for that. Whole Foods and Amazon obviously have one that allow you not only to be thinking about saving money using a coupon type of application, but actually being aware of where you are in the store and pointing out things to you in terms of your location and how those types of things kind of come into play. All of those are really good examples of how technology interacts with people on a daily basis. And the way that that interacts with people is so important because it really matters in terms of building that trust with the brand and building that ability to be thinking about how you can get what you want as a user out of that application as fast and as pleasing as you possibly can. Which really means that it's more than just offering a digital experience. We have to be thinking about making sure that we deliver digital confidence. And that means 2 different things. It means making sure that you are confident in ensuring that your applications that you're pushing to code are as perfect as possible. So that means that you want to make sure that you are creating and delivering and being really thoughtful about how your user experience is presented to your users, and being very, very confident that you are providing the absolute best possible experience you can. But it also means that you have to deliver digital confidence to your users. Be thoughtful of the fact that every interaction that they have with your software is a way for them to continue to build their confidence in your brand, in your technology, and in the services that you're providing. So how that is ultimately thinking about how users interact with your mobile devices, or even the web devices for that matter, the web applications that are out there. Understanding what that impact looks like before your user ever touches it becomes so critical, because you really need that confidence to ensure that when you push it out there, without any doubt whatsoever that it is perfect as it possibly can be, and you will not introduce any disruption to your users' transactions or their ability to trust you as well. So that means that concept of digital confidence really pervades everything that we touch, whether it's how we ourselves are using technology or how we are creating technology for others to use as well. Think of it like this. These are just 3 different studies that were done recently by 3 different organizations. And there's a lot of information in them, but really one of the salient points for each one of these is just the fact that the way that people interact with businesses and technology matters, and it depends on how those users perceive their experience. So for example, McKinsey & Company, they reported that 25% of the people that responded said that they would abandon a brand after just one bad experience. Imagine how many times you've loaded an app on your phone and have it crash before you can do anything. How often are you willing to try that again? Not very often, right? Like, I know I keep my phone pretty sparse because I want to make sure that the types of things that are on it are useful and meaningful for me. And if an application doesn't work, I get rid of it and I don't give it a second chance. So clearly I'm not alone on that standpoint from McKinsey. The Harvard Business Review, They reported that customers are typically going to find that they will spend way more than normal if they had a really good experience, or more to the point, a better experience than people that had the poor experiences in the past. 140% more, in fact. That's enormous. That's not just an incremental change. That is almost a quantum leap in terms of understanding how much that's really going to be factoring in from that point of view. And then ultimately as well, Qualtrics is taking a look at that information and showing that 41% of customers are going to start, on the converse side, decreasing the amount of money they're going to be spending. Think of it like this. Our overall mission is to create a world of digital confidence. And where that comes into play and what makes us ultimately unique about that are the way that we go about providing that information for you. We are committed to the open source. We have a variety of different touch points throughout that community, but probably one of the most important ones is that our entire company was co-founded by the creator of Selenium and Appium. So we are really tightly knit into that overall community. We have a variety of different people like Titus and Stan who are going to talk to you in a bit about how to bring their expertise to ensure that you know how you can get the most out of your investment with SOX and have the best possible outcomes with that. Along with that, we have a ton of data. So we're able to actually not just help you, but by looking at the data and the experiences that others have, we can actually help you not only identify new types of paradigms that you may not have found before, but actually give you some benchmarks to understand how you are stacking up against the rest of the industry. Of course, we're thinking about customers. That's why we're having today. It's why we want to make sure that we have the ability not just to talk to you, but get you to talk to each other and think about how your successes can help shape the industry from that point of view. And that leads right into the user community as well, which we really encourage you to join, especially after this session, where you can continue that conversation and help each other grow and think about how we can do from a strategy point of view. Now, ultimately, the way that that takes shape is we start with the infrastructure that helps with that. There's a variety of different types of tools that we have available. Obviously, headless browsers and desktop and mobile browsers along with that. We have real devices that can help you make sure that the experiences that users will have on their actual devices matches what you expect it will be. On top of that, we build a variety of different ways of looking at that data. So we have videos and screenshots. We have the ability to debug various different scripts that are coming in. You can take a live testing moment and make sure you can verify what the results are looking at. And of course, we have that analytics both on the benchmark side of things as well as just your own data as well. And what that ultimately gets you is a functional, a performance, and a visual look at your application and your experience, a 360-degree, if you will, view of your user experience from that standpoint. All of that is surrounded by enterprise-grade security and support to really help people understand and have the confidence that we provide that best possible experience for you as well. And we call that the continuous testing cloud that we enable for you to have access to from that point. If you think about it from a point of view of what that ultimately means, we also think about how the market is changing. There are three key drivers that are really touching the way that the industry is being shaped. Thinking about it from a point of view of how everyone is everywhere, this omnichannel approach. Having touch points in a variety of different industries and a variety of different markets really is the hallmark of what the industry is becoming. And the ability to get product to market as fast as possible ultimately is driving that experience as well. How do we ensure that people have that best look and best available access? And then as I mentioned before, shifting left and shifting right, thinking about testing in production, thinking about testing in development, not just testing and test. If you think about it from that point of view, you really have to be thinking about this aspect of testing continuously, testing in throughout the software development lifecycle, and ensuring that people have the right kind of data from that standpoint. So how we think about it, we really think about it from a point of view of not just testing in classic aspect of does the functional aspect work, but do we actually have the proof that in production, the application is doing what we think it will be doing? Do we have that checkpoint? Do we have the ability to take a look at it and understand how things might be changing as users start interacting with it? And then ultimately, what do we learn from that? How do we take that back into development and think about what test strategies we should be doing to change from there and ensure ultimately that the strategies and the overall goals that we had set up in the very beginning are being met, and we can course correct as we go through that to ensure that the tests that we have are providing the best possible outlook for your software so you build that digital confidence. Our 2020 focal points really kind of boil down to four key things. We want to be fast, reliable, and performant. We want to expand the developer value proposition like we talked about before. We want to unify the overall experience. So we do have a variety of different aspects that we've acquired companies in the past, and we're folding them in and making sure that those have a unified experience from that point of view. And ultimately, like I said before, thinking about it from a point of view of analytics. How do we ensure that we deliver the right insight to you at the right time so you can make those informed decisions? How that looks for 2020 and the rest of 2020 is be thinking about the various different personas that come into play. The QA and the SDETs that are out there, and thinking about how we interact with them, providing them those aspects that we just talked about in the near term, and then thinking more about how do we enable people to broaden their horizons and kind of expand the overall usage to get their colleagues to use it easier and get up to speed faster. Ensuring that we have the right kind of aspect in terms of how we manage your users, how we manage the way that you can subscribe, and ultimately even ensuring that we reduce the overall tech debt that we've built up through those acquisitions and other types of things that just naturally happens throughout software. And then finally, from a developer point of view, making sure that people understand how failure analytics comes into play with various different tests they have, why things are failing, and what that tells them about their software practices and how they can speed up from there. Getting into native frameworks and a variety of different things, but probably most importantly, thinking about how we can take advantage of types of integrations of technologies that are on the rise, like Cypress, and be thinking about things like Puppeteer, Playwright, and a variety of different types of technologies that enable us to get in front of the developer themselves long before traditionally they would ever have to send that over to QA to test it, really rounding out that overall view of how software works throughout the entire life cycle. I would really encourage you, if you have a deeper interest in each one of these, reach out to us. We are absolutely happy to have a conversation with you again. But for now, I believe we're going to turn it over to Stan to help us out and understand what SOS looks like from a practical point of view. So Stan, I'll turn it over to you.
Hi, my name is Stan Williams. I'm a senior solution engineer here at SOS Labs. I think part of the reason that I was hired here was I was a software engineer for about 20 years. And what that means is that I am an expert in creating bugs and maybe less good at tracking them down. What I'm going to talk about today is getting started with SOS Labs. And to do that, I'm going to give you a brief overview of the UI. We're going to look quickly at manual testing, because this automation journey that we're all on starts with manual testing, moving into the true value of parallel testing across multiple environments once you automate. So we're going to look at the UI, we're going to run a manual test, and then we're going to run automated tests across a variety of platforms. So I'm going to share my screen now. Great. So the screen that we're looking at is the Getting Started panel of the SOS Labs UI. If you take a look, you can see that it provides a number of onboarding steps to help you walk through the process of moving any existing Selenium scripts you have to work on SOS. I'm also going to show you 2 or 3 steps that are involved in that process. But for now, I'm going to select Live over in the left panel of choices here. Live is SOS Labs' term for manual testing. I'm going to go ahead and select cross-browser. And I want to take a minute to show you this screen because it's a great visual representation of the value that SOS Labs brings to the conversation. This is how you begin to configure a manual test. And as you can see, you have several options. Up at the top, I've chosen the desktop environment. Within that environment, I'm able to choose an OS version, including multiple versions of Mac, going back in time quite far, and Windows 10. I think I'm going to leave it on Windows 10 for now. These vertical panels in the middle, I just selected Chrome 83, show you how many regressive versions of a browser we support. As you can see, I'm still scrolling through what Chrome offers. You may be aware that Chrome and the other major browsers release a new version on average about every 40 to 45 days. SOS Labs is consistently first in getting support for these browsers into our environment for manual testing, as well as automated testing. It's a lot to keep up with, and maintaining this Selenium grid or grid of different environments against which tests can be run is something that is better maintained by a company that focuses on that so that testers can do what they do best, which is, of course, ensure that customers get a great experience. So I've chosen Chrome 83. Over here, I've got the resolution at 1280 by 1024. Not the world's biggest viewport, but it will give us a chance to review the layout of the site. Up here, I've selected the Sauce demo site, and I'm going to go ahead and click to start the session. What you see on the screen now is a single-use VM being spun up. When you run tests at Sauce Labs in our virtual cloud, they are run on single-use VMs that are only for your use and are torn down afterwards. The process is that you have selected your environment, the VM spins up to run that environment, and it also runs the Selenium server so that it can accept Selenium commands. But since this is a manual one, I am going to interact with it as a manual tester would. I'm just testing whether I can, in fact, log in. Pretty common test after any change to code. And so I have logged in successfully. As you can see, interaction in the VM is fast. There is not much lag time involved in this manual testing process, which is great. I do want to show you a couple of features of the manual testing view here. On the right-hand side, the first thing, you can bring up info about the current testing setup that you're involved in. That becomes important if your developers have released a new version of the website and you're testing across dozens or even hundreds of environments. It's easy to lose track of where you are. That's how you get to this information. I've clicked on the invite choice in the right-hand dock. This is perhaps my favorite feature of manual testing. What we get here is a link that allows you to share this VM session with other users in your organization. It's really the best answer to the developer who always says, works on my machine. With this, you can show that developer or a product owner or someone involved in the flow of a website what interactions are really like. And since you are sharing the session, you're able to share what that user experience would be. See, I'm also going to show you I can take a screenshot at any point. The green banner up top is mentioning that the screenshot has been saved to the test details page. We're going to take a look at some test detail pages now and some other features of the UI because I want to move forward. So I am clicking to stop this session. At this point, we are returned to that same manual configuration page. I want to show you quickly at the top. I was on desktop. We do also offer testing against real devices so that the devices you're seeing on your screen now are part of our RDC cloud, which enables you to run tests, manual and automated, against real devices. I am going to click here into the automated section, and what I'm pulling up now is the test results page. Now, when you run automated tests, you're likely to be kicking them off from a CI/CD server like Jenkins or other automated process. And it's certainly likely that you'll be pulling the results of the tests out of Sauce Labs via the API. However, it's a little more user-friendly to show you these results in the UI than to show you a series of API calls. So let's just take a closer look at these test result overview pages. On the left-hand side here, you can see I ran a test about 24 minutes ago. Verify valid users can sign in. We're given a lot of information about this particular test on this overview page. First thing I want to point out is this check mark on the left-hand side. This indicates that this test was a success. It passed. Now, it's important to note that this metric, it's the assertion of the test itself, whether it passed or failed, that is set by your code. It's not an evaluation by Sauce Labs of the test. It's your determination whether the test was a success or a failure. The reason for that is our tests are used to run business cases, and you need to make that determination in your environment and let us know what it is. Moved over to the right a little bit, you can see, of course, we have the operating system showing, the version of Chrome showing. And quickly, let me just say that although there are tons of versions of all of these browsers, in your code, you don't have to reference them by the ordinal number of the version. That's a great thing because there are changes so frequently that you want to be able to abstract that. So in your code, you can say, run this test on the latest version of Chrome and the latest -1 version of Edge. That's a shortcut we allow you. This here in green is a view of this test from the performance standpoint. That is Sauce's ability to test a user's experience in terms of how quickly they can interact with the page. We might take a look at that in a minute. I've clicked now into the detail page of this test, and what you can see is that in this two-panel view, first thing I'm going to do is I've started the video on the left-hand side. For every automated test that you run in Sauce Labs, we are going to go produce a video that follows the steps that are in this right-hand side. So you can see I'm on the command session, and each command here is a step in your test or a Selenium command that you've sent. So this test starts with a post, pardon me. Yeah, I opened it up and shows us the details of that post command. Down here, we're looking for the find username so that we can then, in fact, send the login information into the website on the VM and confirm the test steps. But one thing that I think is important to note about this particular view is that we have these icons on the right. These are screenshots that Sauce Labs takes automatically every time that your test changes the DOM. So that is a very quick view of what the test details page is. Right now, I'm going to switch away for a very quick look at some Selenium code that runs tests. I want to show you how easy it is to get your tests running on Sauce Labs. So this example is written in Java, but we support multiple languages. The two lines that I have accessed here are simply setting strings equal to your Sauce username and your access key. That's two of the three steps necessary to point your test towards Sauce Labs. The third step is that you need to reference this on-demand URL. That's our facility for processing incoming test results and spinning up the VMs. Scroll down just a little bit. You can see I'm creating a new web driver here. I'm setting the URL for that equal to the Sauce Labs command. Quickly, I'm going to look over here. You can see I've got a Chrome version array. I've got Firefox, Safari. What this is setting up this test to run on multiple platforms at the same time. So I've clicked down into the bottom terminal window here, and I'm going to go ahead and start these tests now. As you can see, I'm getting feedback from the Maven framework in the console. But let's take a look at what this is doing in the Sauce Labs UI. Down here in the lower left portion of the screen under concurrent sessions, you can see that we've spun up 35 tests that are running right now. So what these tests are doing is verifying login on the page. This is the same test I showed you manually at the beginning, but Sauce Labs is allowing you to run that critical user experience test across about 36 platforms at the same time. That was all triggered from the one snippet of code that I've shown you, and the end result is that you get to the true value proposition of what Sauce Labs is offering. Digital confidence that your user experience, no matter what device or platform they are coming from, will be what you need it to be. That's why testing is important. That's why you're important, because all of our applications, all of our websites are our first touch point with our customers.